Hello. So our presentation today will be primarily talking about the future of retail properties and kind of how they've evolved over the years. But first, I kind of want to touch a little bit on the past trends of retail, like what we've seen over primarily the past like 10 to 20 years. Next slide. Oh, it's me. So 10 to 20 years ago, retail was dominated kind of by your typical brick and mortar store. These stores were staples of the retail sector and kind of highlighted the one-stop shop experience that a lot of shoppers were looking for back in the day. This sector was also primarily dominated by outlet malls and shopping malls where they had these large anchor tenants, kind of like a J.C. Penney or a Sears or a Nordstrom that would kind of attract foot traffic for the smaller boutique shops that were around it. And overall, there was kind of a more of a focus on like the in-store shopping, kind of being like an overall experience. However, though, big box retailers have been hit particularly hard in the past 4 to 5 years. This is kind of due to a combination of factors, really stemming from the rise of e-commerce, kind of as well as retail giants kind of failing to adjust to a more mobile and interconnected kind of shopping experience. So we've seen kind of retail giants like J.C. Penney, who were around for over 118 years. They filed bankruptcy in May after kind of a decade of losses. They've lost more than 4 billion since 2010. And while this graphic is from 2018, another retail giant and staple, Toys R Us, which has recently filed for bankruptcy, um, has also seen serious hits that began in 2018. And this really kind of stems from the rise of e-commerce and mobile shopping. With the rise of smartphones and the world becoming more and more interconnected, it's estimated that over 50% of online shopping is done through smartphones. E-commerce giants like Amazon and their other competitors are kind of leading the way in reinventing how retail is done. And this reinventing has kind of led to amazing growth for a company like Amazon and e-commerce in general, which is projected to have over 32.4% growth year over year, which is pretty incredible. And then you can see from this graphic kind of the different trajectories that retail and department stores versus e-commerce have seen over the past 15 to 20 years. It's been fairly dramatic, the drop off from department stores with the rise of e-commerce as well.
This chart indicates there's a variety of reasons shoppers choose to shop online, primarily ease and convenience. As online shopping becomes more safe and reliable, many customers are electing to shop mostly online, which invariably creates a sharp decrease in the profits of those traditional brick and mortar retailers. Many companies have done the work to figure out their options regarding maintaining a physical presence in the marketplace. A large percentage of those have decided that the investment needed to maintain real estate properties will not be worth the risk. Some companies, on the other hand, have begun to explore options outside the box options that have been working for various other companies in the same situation. Next slide. Primarily, there's been a large focus on taking back some of the market space lost to online retailers by creating their own online presence. Additionally, many retailers have begun specializing in experience-based retail strategies. Walmart.com in particular is a prime example of a big box retailer seeking to take a share of that online market space. Other retailers have followed suit in hopes of regaining that lost capital that will allow them to maintain their physical presence while providing shoppers with online options. According to FreightPros.com, some 51% of Americans prefer to shop online, while the remaining 49% would rather go to a store. Retailers are doing their due diligence to maintain that 49% while trying to regain a share of those who prefer to shop online. Next slide, please. As Matt alluded to, in-store shopping has been on the decline for the better part of the last decade. That trend has only been accelerated in recent years with that increased ease of online shopping and the plethora of other options that allow free shipping, amongst others. The recent COVID pandemic has only served to accelerate that process. However, many people are now seeking experiences that tend to differentiate themselves from that monotony and disconnectedness that we can all feel sometimes, especially when we're kind of locked in our houses. This is where experience-based retail strategies come into play. Retailers have started showcasing brands and delivering experiences of the product specifically tailored to the customer's needs. Imagine experiencing a sport while buying a product. This is how retail is changing. This kind of shopping experience not only engages a customer, but also provides emotional benefit and connectedness. Some specialty shops and retailers even enable people to indulge in their passions, organize book clubs, baking lessons, musical classes, etc. Take, for example, a sports shop conducting yoga classes or running clubs for patrons for deeper engagement. You've all likely seen the cooking classes available at stores like Williams and Sonoma. These experiences seek to give shoppers a reason to step away from the computer and step into the store.
So I'm going to talk about the effects of COVID on retail. So the first response to COVID-19 was basically to shut everything down. Many stores closed their doors completely for a few weeks, while others were just forced to shorten their hours of operation. This led to a severe loss of customers for many businesses, which unfortunately for some stores ultimately led to bankruptcy. Many people lost their jobs and businesses because of this economic crisis, and many families just struggled to make ends meet. The two main enforcements after the corona outbreak was the introduction of masks to be worn in every public place, and what we know is social distancing and staying 6 feet away from other people. People in the world of retail and business can no longer be as personable with their customers and clients because of these masks, and the social distancing factor limits the amount of people in a certain area. So stores aren't even getting the customers that they used to. But since no one knew what to do in a pandemic such as this one, the global lockdown seemed like the best solution to the government. Next slide. Another problem retail centers had was trying to keep their shelves stocked with essentials during this lockdown. People began to stock up on things that they usually wouldn't, like stock up on, such as like canned food, cleaners, and toilet paper. Stores would run out of items much faster due to the supply shortages and the greed of customers, and there's no way to keep up with the demand for goods with the lack of workers on the factories and due to COVID. Next slide. The behavioral change of customers was probably the biggest problem to retail stores. People began to shop online instead of in stores, which led to stores losing money because people were not always like consistent with the same store. They could switch stores with the click of a button, and people were not as tempted for impulse buys when they're shopping online. But another thing with online shopping is stores lose money with order picking and delivery costs, which they don't have to worry about with like in-store shopping. And then restaurants also have to deal with this problem because they are forced to close their dining rooms to limit people's contact with each other. A lot of restaurants designated carry-out areas in their establishments so they could still continue business. And then food delivery companies such as like DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats started gaining popularity since people couldn't eat in restaurants. They would just get it delivered to them, or they just simply learn how to cook themselves. Next slide. So what does the new normal look like for retail? Masks are probably going to be in the foreseeable future, which I believe doesn't really help in customer service because it's just blocking your face and people don't really seem as friendly, so it just doesn't build bonds with people. Social distancing will also probably continue, even if it's not enforced, probably just because like the instilled fear in people. I think people are just going to become kind of germaphobes and probably afraid to be outside of their homes. So the retail businesses they usually go to will still continue to take a hit. And then stores are probably just going to open and close over and over every time there's a spike in COVID numbers. Next slide. Another thing that everyone is very aware of is the statewide curfew. The governor trying to keep everyone inside from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. for the next few months or next few weeks. And this affects retail as well because most everywhere is expected to be closed at the same time too, except like drive-throughs and things like that. And this curfew has every possibility to be extended. Next slide.
So some future outlooks on retail. We've seen retail and commerce is going more digital, as we talked about earlier. There's been a big increase in online volume for the less established areas of the retail sector. So what we're going to see is more online orders, deliveries, and shopping in general. The short-term behaviors due to COVID may become long-term or permanent. So, for example, someone who might be using Grubhub or Uber Eats for the first time to order food is likely going to keep doing that instead of going somewhere and eating in-house. And this is going to build trust for doing things online. And then as a result of that, e-commerce will go up and it'll become more reliable. We will also see changes in views of safety. People will think it's more safe to do things online and work from home rather than go somewhere and be in person. Next slide. So with all of this, the digital world is just going to be improved more and more every day. So the more someone does something online, the more data each site has, the more data they have, the more the company will be able to collect it and use it as research to help better the online experience for each person. So they'll be able to personalize and cater to each individual to give them a better experience online. And then as a result of that, it's going to create less hands-on and less brick and mortar in the retail. As a result of the pandemic, more research and development is being able to be done day by day. So with COVID, everything that we might not have seen research done is being able to be researched and developed at new levels than ever before. Because of huge increases of consumers online, the idea that location may be changing and becoming, I'm sorry guys, my thing just like bugged out on me. My notes for a sec. Because of the huge increase in consumers going online, the idea that location is key and is something that is very necessary in retail may become less important. The focus may shift to the use of industrial buildings or logistics rather than the need for entertainment and experience for people. For example, movies, gyms, malls, restaurants can be taken over by things like streaming services, working out at home, shopping online, and ordering delivery. So retail could see a shift from a locational battle to more of a social and psychological battle going forward. Next slide, please. As a result of this, there's a lot of talk of what to do with those old retail properties as many begin to close and are not necessary. A big example of this is dead malls around the country. So malls were already trending down pre-COVID, and research showed an estimate of 25% would be closed within the next 5 years. So some options that they've seen are replacing these with those industrial buildings or medical facilities, churches, even apartments. Ultimately, each area will have different functions determining what they will do and operate as. But because of these trends and conditions for future retail, the need for brick and mortar in the retail sector will become less effective as it looks to continue post-pandemic. Next slide.
So online shopping has drastically changed how we kind of live our day-to-day lives. Consumers continue to change what they want, and the shift in online shopping this year has been greater than ever. It's increased 21% from last year, and Thanksgiving and Black Friday it increased 40%, which is unheard of numbers. COVID-19 obviously helped the transition from retail brick and mortars to online shopping, but there was already an influx in online shopping prior to COVID-19. E-commerce has gone from 10% overall sales to 30 to 40% overall sales for a lot of retailers such as Target and Walmart, which has allowed them to change how they do business and allow them to make a better profit. Experts continue to believe that the habits being formed will keep consumers doing online shopping, and it'll make it possible for them to continue to help the big retail companies, which will hurt the smaller businesses. Next slide. They've lost a lot of investors and tenants over the years. JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, and Pier 1 are multiple big retailers that have filed for bankruptcy due to lack of tenants that are paying. Due to this decrease, many commercial real estate companies are hurting, and not as many people are investing in this sector of real estate compared to the private real estate market, which is currently booming. Technology could easily be the downfall of commercial real estate. The property write-downs and foreclosures that are happening in the near future for these properties are really hurting both the big tenants, like public tenants, and then smaller people with pension funds, because 87% of public pension funds and 73% of private pension funds hold real estate investments, and this will hurt these people significantly. Retail loans are also growing in special servicing. It's up 5% from last year. This is the first step for borrowers seeking relief on loans and commercial mortgage-backed securities. A lot of malls are starting to foreclose, and it's evident that the vacancy in these malls and the wasted commercial real estate is causing companies and lenders to go under. The biggest result of this is that the owner of Mall of America even had to enter into an agreement with its special servicer to avoid foreclosure in August of this year. Next slide. Simon Property Group is the country's largest shopping center and mall owner. They've been really struggling during these times due to closures at many of their locations and the lack of shopping that's been done in person. Online shopping has been the greatest culprit of Simon Property Group's properties being devastated. And COVID-19 coming into the equation hurt their annual revenue even more than anticipated. They've been in talks with Amazon to start a partnership where the Sears and JCPenney department stores will be turned into last mile warehouses for Amazon, since they've recently filed for bankruptcy protection. This deal would help Simon Property Group and allow them to fill the vacant space and collect rent instead of just having their stores go untouched and losing money like they have been for the past few years. They've also announced that they're going to go forward with their deal with Taubman Centers and merge the two companies. Simon tried to back out of the deal when COVID-19 hit, but Taubman sued to prevent this from happening, because Taubman is going to benefit greatly, because with the decline of malls, they were able to get out of this business and have a majority of the company bought for more than it was actually worth. This really hurt Simon Property Group because now they have more properties that they don't know what to do with in a dying market. The future doesn't look great for Simon Property Group, and they're most likely going to have to foreclose on many of their properties. That's it.